Hi guys, and welcome to the Stephen King Sematary Club. Hi guys, we're talking about Apt Pupil, which is the second novella in different seasons. It's Summer of Corruption, Apt Pupil. There are basically two main characters. There's Todd Bowen, who is 13 years old when the story starts. He eventually, after the course of the story, turns 17. So it's a young kid, a minor the whole time, and he has gotten interested in very overly exploitative war magazines, and he becomes fascinated. He discovers an old man who was the blood fiend of Patton, which is a fictional concentration camp in Poland, and he has basically spied on this man until he is certain that it is him, even though his doorbell says that his name is Arthur Denker. Todd knows that he is actually Kurt Dusender, and he was a German SS soldier who has fled Germany, obviously, and then has come up to America and is living there. And this is the first and probably only Stephen King work where I just detest the characters. I don't like Todd. I don't like Arthur/Kurt. So the premise of the story is good. I think that, some of this is fictionalized, but it's based on actual events. The premise is good, and it just goes to show you that, without needing anything supernatural or monster-based, Stephen King can take actual events that happened, tweak them a little bit, and it's basically more disgusting and worse than anything that he could have imagined. So it's a sad moment in history when you realize how terrible all of this stuff is, and that there is basis for it in reality. So that's very unfortunate. I do enjoy historical fiction. I just have a hard time sympathizing with any of the people in this story. So Todd is a bright boy. He's very normal appearing, but he does have a dark undercurrent to him. It reminds me of Dexter, and the fact that Dexter has to kind of learn to pass as a normal person. He doesn't know how to pretend to have emotions. He has to learn that. And it's something that Todd kind of has. He's a very intelligent kid, and he has all these dark thoughts, all these dark interests, but he wants to pass as normal. And he has convinced his parents, he's convinced his teachers, he's convinced everyone that, he is just a normal, good, stereotypical boy. So basically, Todd goes over to Arthur Denker's house and he says, "Hey, I know that you are Kurt Dusender. I know that you tortured people, killed people, you were the blood fiend of Patton, and I want to hear all about it." It starts out calling the German guy Arthur, and then when we find out that he really is this secret Nazi, they do start calling him Kurt Dusender. So throughout the book, he is Dusender unless Todd is speaking about him to someone else and protecting his identity. So that's what I'll just call him, Dusender. And, at first he denies it. He has this whole litany of things that he recites because obviously he's had to come up with a backstory to explain his presence in the country, what he was doing during the war. He has a whole alibi cooked up that he's been working on for years. So he just recites that to Todd. He's like, "You're mistaken. This is not me." And Todd presses. At first he doubts himself a little bit, but then he's like, "Nope, I know it's him." And he calls the guy's bluff, and the guy finally admits it. So they have begun intertwining themselves, and their lives just become so enmeshed. They each hate each other, and there's no escape. We find out that Dusender is living off of some stocks that he got, and the person who sold him the stocks was Andy Dufresne, so that's just a little nod to the Shawshank Redemption, which was the previous novella in this different seasons book. So I think I just love when Stephen King references his own work. He does it later on in this book. He mentions Spring Heel Jack, the serial killer, which was a nod to Strawberry Spring, which was a short story. At first, Doosander resists. He doesn't enjoy reliving his experiences. He doesn't like Todd. He doesn't like talking to Todd, but Todd threatens to expose him and expose his secret, so he goes along with it. And eventually, after a couple months, Doosander seems to be okay with reminiscing and with the things he's done. Todd even gets him a costume SS uniform, makes the guy put it on and, walk around the room, and he's just really enjoying putting the screws to this guy. And the more that he hears, the more that they oddly bond. Todd becomes even more agitated, even more angry. He doesn't sleep very much. He's having nightmares. He's having dark, disturbing thoughts of his own, and he starts really hating Doosander. And when his grades start suffering, he was always an apt pupil, as one of his teachers remarked. He starts slipping in his grades. He's not doing well in school at all. He's unable to concentrate, and he blames Doosander, which is ironic because he's the one who sought Doosander out and insisted on, going through with all of this. Doosander starts reliving his old life. He starts with a cat, he kills it, puts it in his oven. He kills a dog after he goes to the pound. There's a slight reference to Cujo when they talk about St. Bernards. He eventually moves on to homeless people, as does Todd. Todd starts killing homeless people, and the two of them are doing this unbeknownst to the other. They also each want to kill each other. So Todd wants to kill Doosander. Doosander wants to kill Todd. Todd has said that he set up a letter with a friend, so if he goes missing, his friend will turn the letter in and get Doosander in trouble. Doosander says that he has written out everything and put it in a safety deposit box, and when he dies, that will be opened and Todd will be ruined. So they each have this assured mutual destruction, but neither one of them is telling the truth. And even if they tell each other, I don't really have this thing, neither one believes the other. So they are just completely intertwined. They cannot extract themselves. Even in death, they will still be wondering and worrying that this fabled letter will come out. It's a really bad situation that neither one of them had to be in to begin with. Although I do think most of the blame lies with Todd for having pressed and sought out and, the manipulation and all that stuff. At one point, when Doosander is killing a man, he starts experiencing heart attack symptoms. He gets him into the basement, he's ready to bury the body where he's been burying all of the bodies, and he can't continue. He can't do anything. There's blood everywhere, there's a body, he's having a heart attack. Things are going to look very, very not good for him or Todd if he calls the cops or the ambulance and they find this mess. Doosander ends up calling Todd to come clean up the mess before they can call for an ambulance. Todd is definitely an accomplice. He sets everything to rights. He manages to get everything situated, and Doosander goes to the hospital. While he's in the hospital, there is a man who is brought in named Morris Heisel. He has broken his back, and he's sharing a room with Doosander. And it takes him many, many days before he can place how he thinks he knows Doosander. And all of a sudden it comes to him. He was in Patton as a prisoner, as was his entire family, and Doosander killed his family. So now he is in a hospital room with the monster who murdered his entire family. And it's just probably one of the best parts of the novella is that moment where he puts everything together. Doosander and Todd, again, Todd tries to break up with him, and Doosander's like, you know what? I've put two and two together. I think these homeless people who are going missing, the ones that I didn't kill, are being killed by you. And Todd just does not like that. Quote, the idea that someone had been making connections behind his back infuriated him. Page 241. So, they're still connected. They're still exhibiting this. They're basically just made for each other. And yet again, they run into that problem where Doosander's like, you know what, we can call it quits, but neither one of us trusts the other, so we'll never be quits. We just can't trust each other. There's no way. It's not gonna work. So at this point, it's been 4 years of Todd just descending into insanity. He gets very little sleep. He has nightmares. He has disturbing thoughts. He has irrational anger all the time. He's angry constantly. He has these dark fantasies about going to an embankment and shooting passing cars. He just has this evil nature to him. And then at this point, everything starts to triangulate. There's a man who is looking for outstanding Nazis, and he comes in. He says Morris Heisel reported you to me, and we are going to extradite you. You are going to pay for your crimes. And Doosander sits in his bed and he's trying to deny this. He can't. He's at a dead end, and so he decides he's going to kill himself. So he kills himself in the hospital, which causes just a whole bunch of things to come out. Todd's guidance counselor, who had talked to him, he was pretending to be Todd's grandfather. He sees his picture in the paper. Todd's parents see the picture in the paper. The police start questioning Todd. They are pretty sure he's in on things. The guy who is going to extradite Doosander and take him back to Israel, he is also interested in him. Just all these things start coming together, and Todd realizes everything's closing in. There's a homeless man who recognized Todd. He goes and reports him to the guy who's actually on the murder case for the homeless men, and he starts realizing that his case intersects with the case of the Nazi who killed himself in the hospital. So just all this stuff is closing in on Todd. His guidance counselor goes over to talk to him and ask, what is up? Why did you have this guy pretend to be your grandfather a long time ago? And Todd realizes that he has nothing left to lose. He shoots the guidance counselor, and then he goes to that embankment and starts picking people off, and it says that it takes about 5 hours, and he is put down. Like I said, it's such a dark novella. The fact that it's based in a lot of reality is upsetting and gives you a sense of disgust, which is, I think, a healthy thing to, read and experience. And it's just well written, but not one of my favorites. I do appreciate the premise. I think it's a very clever premise. I'm pretty sure I saw the movie a long time ago, but I don't remember anything about it. I have heard people say that this is yet another taboo story. It shouldn't be discussed, but I think it's important. I think those who don't pay attention to history are doomed to repeat it, as they say, and I think remembering this stuff is important. It is important for everyone. So those are my thoughts on Apt Pupil, and next week we cover the body. Have a spooky day.